Hello there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Degrassi video. And today we take a look at some Degrassi plots that should have been followed up on. Now, there have been a lot of good Degrassi plots over the years and all that. And, you know, I've done some top 10s on basically the top 10 stories from each of the things. Like Next Gen, I made it from 1 to 7, even though a lot of people say Next Generation is from 1 to 9. And then, you know, the offshoot Degrassi series from 8 to 14 for me, and the next class 15 to 18. Now, basically, I've done that, but I'm not going over them, like the 20 things and rank those. Basically, I'm not going to rank anything. I'm just going to talk about some stuff that basically should have been talked about. This person on the Reddit community, by the name of Liz Robin, posted this. Here are some of the random plots they never came back to that I thought were odd to never again address. I'm not talking about the black hole where characters disappear and where plots just don't pan out. The first one she says is that Hazel's heritage, her family. Really, anything about Hazel after that one episode in season 1, I think, which is wrong in season 2, which she pretends to be Jamaican. Now, I'm not gonna list them all and then basically do each one like that. I'm just going to say, well, Hazel's heritage. Now, I'll talk about that one. So, basically, in Season 2, I can't remember what the episode name was, but basically, Hazel has an issue with an Islam girl. The girl who's Islam does not have an Islam name. Well, the actress, but I think she is of background. But basically put, Hazel is upset over these Middle Eastern people. And with her and Paige and Terry, they basically, in Paige's clique, gives her a fashion ticket for the outfit she has to wear to the school. So basically, Hazel's just being cruel and catty and all that. And Paige even is shocked, which is unusual. So basically, they do this international day in which, like, I guess the grade 10s or something like that actually do an event to raise awareness of what background they're in. It's funny seeing that Spitter doesn't get a clear answer on his heritage. He decides to make a food that tries to get all of his heritage, especially his adopted sister Kendra, who's Chinese. So basically, he does that. Snake in a Swedish shirt is not too pleased. It's funny, Snake in Sweden. Hazel decides to be Jamaican, even though that the Islam girl basically says that, oh damn, that sounds Somalian. So basically, Hazel does all this stuff. And Hazel basically, you know, Jamaican and all that. We get to see Paige in her Ukrainian outfit, which is kind of low cut. Jimmy, I don't know what he is, but we see other background characters in different clothing. And we even see Radish in a kilt. Are you kidding me? Radish in a kilt? Seriously. But anyway, yeah. So I like that, but in a sense. But anyway, long story short, the girl gets her, I think, Iranian thing desecrated because, you know, of the anti-Islam or anti-Muslim rhetoric after 9/11. And this was, what, 15 months after 9/11 this episode was aired? First time? So basically, Hazel's fingered as a suspect because of her hatred towards the Islam girl. But it would turn out that it was a couple of people in grade 11, a year ahead of them. So basically, Hazel is off scot-free. But basically, Raj tells her that basically words hurt sometimes more than actions. Then Hazel realizes that she needs to come clean. So she comes clean to the Islam girl, saying that she's Somalian, and basically she had some Islamophobia put it on her. And the girl says, gee, and you sure learned from those girls. And then basically Hazel decides to do her project for Simpson's class and all that. The Somalian and all that. Terry asks the simple question, what about the headgear and all that? Oh, I wear it to mosque, all that, but I can wear whatever I want outside my religious freedoms or something like that. And they basically give her a round of applause. Hazel is lucky. They all treat Hazel like a normal person. Now that's so nice after all. But then again, I mean, like Hazel, you know, they should have had more about her heritage and all that. Yeah, because the minority characters were given a lot of crap and all that. I've done a video on that. I can't remember which one it was, but I'll find it one of the seconds. But anyway, yeah, it's like all the hatred towards the minority characters and all that. Like I know they were getting there, but it seemed that they were stereotypical. Like Jimmy and his basketball and his being an athlete because he's black. Okay, so the second one she said, Robin said was Eli's hoarding. Why didn't I flag him for anxiety or explore his bipolar diagnosis at that point? All that. Yeah, like Eli had a lot of issues, especially after his girlfriend Julia died and all that. I think they kind of made bits and pieces throughout, like seasons 11 to 14, but nothing too full of it. I'm actually shocked that Claire would actually have would have a relationship with Eli and all that. But Claire was getting out of her comfort zone. The third one was any friendship between Eli, Adam, and Sav. They go to that one concert and never speak again. Well, they may have spoken off camera, but like, yeah. It's weird how Sav takes his dad's truck and takes them to a concert and all that. And basically, Sav actually yells at his dad saying that your expectations are too high for me. All that I'm trying my best and I just can't do it. But I know I'll get into your good graces someday. I hope you can. Because somewhere underneath everything, you care about me. Okay, well, that was kind of a weird plot. Anyway. Robin said, why were Claire and Eli not witnesses in a trial against Fitz? They sent them to Juby with no trial. What is this? I think off screen they did a trial. They sent him to Juby right away. I mean, kind of like a holding cell in a sense, until they went through a trial and basically try to find out what his punishment would be and all that. Yeah, maybe I think Fitz was in Juvie before the trial, and then maybe there was a trial and all that off screen that Claire and Eli did all that. Of course, Fitz was trying to destroy Eli to be closer to Claire. Robin also said they rarely bring up Jane's trauma from her father's abuse after Jane says. That's the episode. I think Jane brings it up a few times, but why she can't leave Spin because he was so good to her during that time. All that. So yeah, of course, in season 8, Jane basically learns that her father is trying to get back into their lives, and then realizes that Jane's dad basically would do sickening things to her. Basically, he would be upstairs with Jane and would try to dress her or undress her in such a way. And then Jane found out that he had his hand down his pants and all that. Kind of sickening, don't you think? Lucas didn't know much. Lucas probably didn't know much. Lucas was just watching TV and all that. But maybe Lucas kind of did know, and maybe his dad bribed Lucas, saying that I'll help you out with everything to do with your kid and all that, as long as you don't say anything. So basically, after Lucas realizes what Jane went through, he basically tells his dad never to come by the family again, because he's worried that now that he's going to groom and go towards Isabella, like his daughter. So basically, he realizes that he's bad and all that. He mentions how terrible he feels, but Jane says, we were just kids, and you're here helping me now. And then that's when Lucas disappears. That was the last time we saw Lucas, and I'm like, I would have loved to see Lucas with a redemption episode and all that, other than Jane says. Yeah, you're right. She's right. Like, Jane's trauma should have been thought of more. Robin said, also, Emma would be traumatized by the pilot episode, I'm just saying. Well, who knows? Maybe the pilot episode did give Emma some pause and all that. Of course, the pilot episode had 2 parts. The subplot was the reunion of people 10 years later on, like with the Degrassi High people. But basically, Emma was being catfished. She didn't see it. That the Jordan guy who she thought she was in love with was basically a middle-aged man who wanted to take advantage of a young girl who was like 13. I mean, lucky for Emma is that JT, Manny, and Toby help her out and basically tell Snake and Spike, who basically break this whole thing up. I mean, you know, friends help friends. And this is before catfishing was in the popular lexicon. I think it was like, what? It was 2001 when this episode aired. I think it's like 15 years or something like that. No, like five to 10 years after that is when catfishing was in the lexicon. I mean, yeah, Emma would be a little bit traumatized. She didn't show it, though. I think that was probably Emma's characteristics in the first few seasons. Is basically she doesn't let anything bother her, even though that she's basically in the wrong 90% of the time. But then by season 4, after the shooting, she just had her character reset and all that. And I still think that the writers were probably worried about the blowback because, you know, Emma was probably one of the most hated characters in the first few seasons, even though that internet forums were basically like new and all that. Hunter's problems with Maya. He was supposed to be charged with something for what he did. He sexually traumatized Maya, and they just disappear. Well, that can be explained. I mean, you know who Hunter's dad is. Mayor Hollingsworth, or future Mayor Hollingsworth at that time. I think Hollingsworth basically uses money to hush people up and all that. Basically, he just uses money for proper context because he knows that, you know, he can buy his kids out his way out. He buys the kids happiness because they know that he'll get the kids out of trouble and all that. Like, okay, a dad would do such things for his kid, but like buy him off, like the kids are going to just learn to basically rely on their dad 110%. I know Miles gets mad at his dad and all that, but like, yeah, you know, maybe the finances just went away. Maybe basically he bribed the school or something like that, or the school board in a sense, and basically that's why the charges were dropped. I think he, as I said, I can't remember what video I said. Was it an unpopular opinion? I think it was a C duel. Is that basically, you know, he uses money to get his own way, and he could ruin the school's chances at stuff if they don't bow down to the mayor. And number 8 is, what on earth happened to the roommate who Paige slept with HIV? That's Griffin. Yeah, they didn't do a follow-up to that. That, I admit. Yeah, it's like Paige was worried about getting HIV, but it was never established if it was HIV free and all that. But basically, yeah, I think that she was fine. But here's the thing, though. If the guy knew he had HIV and he slept with someone and all that, that constitutes a charge because I remember that there have been a few CFL players who did that and basically they got into jail. So yeah, it's kind of weird. Other people put stuff like Marco being a compulsive gambler just at one time. I don't remember that. And Marco almost was a sex worker because Marco was trying to pay to be with a relationship with, I guess, Tim or something like that in college. And basically he was losing money and then someone set him up with a John. But Marco basically didn't want to sell himself off for money. Somebody said that Fitz took a plea deal. The Canadian justice system is like the American justice system. Livian said Dave's dad never finding out that Dave discharged his taser at Wesley. I think he puts it back in his dad's car when you actually need to reload them before using them again. I did not know about that. I mean, like, why would Dave tase Wesley and all that? Dave seemed to not be a decent person and all that. I mean, you could say that maybe it's biased because of him being a minority, but like, dude, Wesley was given a lot less of plot lines, if you will. Wesley was decent, but and Abby Chick said that I know it wasn't visit again, but Terry after the accident says that I know she transferred to another school, but like, did she not press charges for all the times Rick beat her? Plus, if you haven't seen the deleted scene, then it looks like she was just completely forgotten about. She also said, I wish they caught the guy who assaulted Darcy. Oh, the date raper. Yeah. Claire and Katie going to the cops about Claire's boss and pretty much Imogen's home life. Like they didn't follow up and all that. Yeah. So yeah, there was a lot of things going on with that Abby chick. Because, Terry after the accident, because after Rick put her in a coma, she was seen one more time when Ashley, Spinner, and Paige take off school one time to go see Terry in the hospital. And Terry seems to be okay in a sense. And then that we don't know much about Terry after that. Like if you don't watch the deleted scene in that on the season 4 DVD about what was it called? Mercy Street, we would not have known about what happened to Terry post coma. So according to the deleted scene, Terry's now at another school and Raj can't talk about Terry's progress. And he also said that basically Rick was never charged with anything. That's why he had to bring him back to the school. Although Raj could have had second thoughts and basically told Rick not to. And it was never established if there was some kind of deal for Rick to come back to Degrassi, that he had to do certain things like go to therapy and all that. And basically, if he broke one of the probationary rules, Raj will kick him to the curb. I don't think Raj ever did that. And then again, Raj never talked to the students through the assembly or a thing over the announcements about the fact that Rick is back. There's nothing much you can do about it. But basically, he might have done it. He might not have not done it because it would have been like the students would have been marching to go against Rick and basically undermine his authority. And sadly, though, he had that bit of ego on him that cost him dearly in the end. But yeah, I mean, and everyone said, well, Terry may not have been happy with how Rick was being portrayed and all that. If Terry came back to protect Rick, people would be like, why are you protecting this guy? But Terry would be the voice of reason. And basically, because they're fighting for her, they might have just said, Terry's right. So, yeah. And then the guy assaulting Darcy, it's like, they never caught him. It's like Darcy never got her justice. I know that she finally got in touch with her rape and all that from Broad Camp. But, it would have been nice for Darcy to get closure that they found the guy who raped her. But unfortunately, that's sometimes hard to do and all that with date rape drugs. Claire Katie going to the cops about Claire's boss. Yeah, I mean, it did affect Claire in such a way that she couldn't trust men sometimes. And Imogen's home life. Well, they didn't really want to go for home life for a lot of them. Yeah. Yeah. Corona Bride said Casey and Marisol because, Casey was having an affair with Marisol while dealing with Jenna and baby Tyson. It's weird how, Casey would go with Marisol and then Jenna was home with a baby. So, yeah. And then somebody said about, the whole Maya and Hunter thing. Is that why happened? And then basically, someone said, I thought Zoe was sent to the rubber room because she cyberbullied Maya and distributed child pornography. Maya was sent there because she made a death threat through music and all that. But yeah, Robin said that was kind of weird. What had happened? Yes, Zoe basically may have used her fame, and all that to have a lawyer who basically made a plea deal, and basically Zoe got no punishment for cyberbullying Maya. I mean, basically Zoe tricked Maya into not pressing charges against her, and all that, and Maya, and great opportunity for Zoe to learn that basically people hated her. Like Zoe used her influence to get on Maya's nerves. especially with the fact that she wanted to go after Miles with Maya and all that. It was a plot to basically try to get Miles away from Maya in season 13. And no, this was not when Maya overstepped her boundaries towards Miles, thinking that Miles was going down the same road as Cam. That was season 14. This is season 13. And yet, distributing child pornography. She was supposed to go to jail. She could have went to jail for 5 years, but she had to take community service and all that. Zoe didn't think that was fair, but basically she was told that it was either community service or 5 years in prison. And, Zoe reluctantly took the option. Yeah. And Averyism actually said that in point 6, Emma, about being traumatized in the series premiere. She did experience trauma, but it manifested itself in different ways. Emma had this need to control everything around her. Her friendship with Manny, protesting, the shooting, and her eating disorder. It wasn't the trauma you would normally see, but it appeared. I think it was very clear she was dealing with body issues. Well, yeah. Well, I'll stop right there. Emma's actress, Mary McDonald, actually had an eating disorder for the first few seasons of Degrassi Next Gen, but Emma didn't. And then they swapped it around. Yeah. And Abraham also said something about, I wish Hazel got more plots. The writers didn't care about her character enough. I agree wholeheartedly with Hunter and Maya. The school board should not have allowed Hunter to attend Degrassi after his therapy time. He would have been expelled. But I think it was just basically Hollingsworth throwing money around. And Hunter didn't really apologize to Maya and all that. Yeah. Emergency Allison said something about the Power Cheers fundraiser, Degrassi Nudes and all that. And said, did Zoe get any type of punishment other than community service? Why didn't Winston face any punishment for blackmailing them? Why didn't Hunter or any of the guys who actually bought them face any punishment? I didn't even know about the fact that people bought them. Some of the guys, including Hunter, bought them. What? This is where the writers started wandering into irresponsible territories by having 40 figures like Snake saying CP is a serious offense, but Zoe gets a slap on the wrist. I know she decided to take the fall for the others, but it should have been Zoe and Grace getting the harsh consequences because Grace facilitated the trafficking and all that. I agree. After Degrassi Nudes, it wasn't really explained much. At the second half of season 14, it was just basically a few episodes here and a few episodes there. But that was it. To Emergency Elephant, Zoe didn't receive any punishment on the community service. She took the community service because, as I said, she would have been in jail for 5 years for what she did. And basically, she didn't agree with it. Winston didn't get any punishment for blackmailing them. I think that Pill actually gave him praise and basically gave him some power and all that. Because, some principals award people for blackmailing because, for doing the right thing, even though it was blackmail. I think that Zoe may have actually not wanted to go after Winston because, knowing that Winston would probably never get charged with anything. Yeah, and Simpson lost his job and all that for a while. All that. Yeah, I know. It was just culpability. Sabes actually had some plots that were never revisited. Toby's mom, who visited season 1, never appears again. Toby's mom does appear, doesn't she? Oh, no, wait a minute. That's Toby's mom. That's right. Toby's dad is with Ashley's mom. Right. Yeah. I forgot about that. Everyone forgot. Toby's mom was an agent and all that. It was weird. Terry's modeling career. Yeah, that's a good one. It's like, Terry's modeling career when she basically ends up being a plus-size model. Like her real-life counterpart, Christina Schmidt, basically waves her check at an ice cream boy. It's funny. I know. It's like, why didn't they give Terry good plots and all that? I'm not biased because, Terry or aka Christina Schmidt, went to my high school. But, like, yeah, the floor hockey team with Liberty's team manager. That was kind of weird. It was like a one-off. I think they just wanted to throw something together. I mean, like, I don't think the writers wanted to keep going with floor hockey and all that. But I think they just wanted to make Liberty seem to be a little bit more A-type and all that. Toby's eating disorder. Yeah, that's true. Basically, it was just a one episode thing. I mean, the writers did a good job saying that, you know, males suffer from eating disorders, although a lot of people think they don't. But yeah, like the effects of Toby's eating disorder and all that. Well, you got the girl, which was weird. Mr. Olander's yoga classes. I think that basically Olander, I think he got stuck. Well, someone said he stopped being a yoga teacher because he was busy being with Paige and all that, so Miss Kwan took over. I thought Mr. Olander, I thought that was off school grounds for yoga and all that. That's kind of weird. Miss Kwan actually took over. I thought it was off school grounds, and that's when Paige realizes that Olander's a teacher after she sees him again. I guess not. Don't know. Yeah. And JT being a gifted seamer. Well, I think they just didn't want any kind of blowback because, you know, a male sewer basically could be called gay and all that stuff. I think they didn't want that. I think, and the early internet boards would probably have blown up with a lot of F blank 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 stuff. So yeah, I get it. Saves is right because a lot of those were in the early seasons too. I mean, JT didn't prove he was a good seamer after that episode. Yeah, I know. Eiler even says both of Toby's closest friends died violently, but we barely saw anything addressing this. This is amazing. You're right. Yeah, Eiler's right because it's like, you know, in Back in Black or something. The episode after the shooting, basically Toby does have to deal with a lot of issues and all that. Especially from JT and Danny, who bug him so much. And Toby does spill his guts out to Manny. And Manny decides to do something about it and tears JT a new one. And JT finally decides to be close to Toby. And it's like, yeah, Toby's friend died in a stabbing and all that. Like, Toby may have had some issues off screen and all that. But I think on screen, basically, it just portrayed him as saying he doesn't feel that bad. I think Toby did feel bad, like, off screen and all that. So, yeah, that was huge and all that. Yeah, it seemed that Toby was always being passed over for some strange reason. I doubt this highly, but maybe Toby did feel that when he told JT that basically this may be your last meal and all that. Toby had a eerie premonition and, you know, his best friend died. I know that happened. Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of these things, it's like, you know, I agree with them in principle. So, yeah, like, there were a lot of plots that weren't responded with. Well, for me, it's kind of biased, but I just wanted to, after Raditch left and Bark at the Moon, season 4, I'm like, I wanted to hear what happened to him in the wake of him being reassigned. To me, there's a lot of different ways that it could have gone down, but the way I'm thinking about it and how I'm getting closure is that the fact that maybe Raditch didn't take the reassignment well and basically left because he didn't want to deal with having to go up the ladder again if he had a chance to, and basically went to California for Chop Cut Rebuild. Hee hee. But yeah, I mean, Raditch got a kind of a decent ending, but he could have got a better ending. To me, I think that the writers just wanted to get rid of Dead Woods once and for all. Which is sad because he was an OG. But anyway, thanks for watching this video and hope you have a good day.